Welcome to the With Clarity and Purpose podcast with your host, Yanet Borrego. Each week, I bring you an inspiring person or message to empower you to live life on your terms so you can be who you want to be, do what you are meant to do, and have the life you deserve to have. We will provide you with practical and cutting-edge approaches to continue getting clarity and direction on your path, mastering your mindset, and gaining confidence to tap into your inner wisdom so you can live on purpose. If you're seeking to boost your clarity in any decision you have been wanting to make or any situation that you're going through and you keep asking yourself, is this the right decision for me? Is this the right approach for me? Even, is this the right path for me? I want you to go right now to my show notes because I have prepared a free and simple 3 questions framework for you to go through that by answering these questions, I promise you'll feel a lot more clearer and you'll start creating fulfilling outcomes out of the decisions you're making. Just go right now, or you can go to ybcoaching.com/clarity. Enjoy the episode. Welcome to another episode of With Clarity and Purpose, and I am beyond excited for today's topic because it's one that I'm deeply passionate about. The topic today is about how to stay resilient when you fall off track. Off track from your goals, off track from your desired outcome, maybe from not experiencing the progress you have wanted so far. All of these things are going to happen whenever we are trying to do things we have never done before. Whenever we are trying to install habits and have goals and target results we have never experienced before. And I want to get this first thing out of the way. It is totally okay to fall off track. What matters is what you do next. What matters is what you do in those moments where you have a clear path and you're working and walking towards that path and you fall off track. What happens then for you? I'm going to talk today about a couple of things, practical advice as always, because I want you to implement this. And this is advice you can implement wherever you are that is going to help you strengthen your foundation to stay resilient no matter what knocks you off track, my friend. And funny story, this is probably the 30th or 40th time I try recording this podcast episode. Funny enough, this podcast episode is about resilience. So I just took it as a sign to lead by example. That's my reframe. So yesterday, it was like 6 p.m. and I had finished recording one episode, which audio was perfect. And then I recorded this resilience episode and something didn't sound right in the audio. And my friend, whenever you are a solopreneur, you get to do a little bit of everything. You get to learn about audio, about software, about hardware, about every possible thing in your business. Because at the beginning, you're doing 90% of everything. That is the truth. So just a heads up, I want to apologize just in case some audio in one episode was not perfect. I'm trying my best and I really appreciate you dedicating the time to listen at the message. Now, yesterday I recorded a 20 minutes episode just to realize that the audio wasn't right. And I was like, no, this doesn't sound right. I cannot leave this here. But today I'm not gonna figure it out because I am exhausted. So my fiance Cody had arrived home and we just started eating dinner. And I was like, Cody, like many things have happened today and some of them, they haven't gone my way. Like this podcast episode, I literally tested it like at least 10 times and it's just having the same audio quality issues. And I was like, I'm so frustrated. I don't know why this is happening like right now. It was one of those moments where you're overwhelmed and frustrated and it's the end of the day and you're exhausted. That was my mood yesterday. And he tells me, why you don't Google it? So because I honestly obsessed over getting this right for all of you, my beautiful listeners, I started Googling it, YouTubing, and then there were a couple of things I came back to my office to try. And when I came back to my office, guess what? I stayed for at least 2 hours trying to figure this out until I did. And I was like, okay, after trying like 10 times or 20 times, I don't even remember how many. They have been a lot, my friend. And I was like, I think I got it right. Tomorrow I'll come back. And this is tomorrow, today. I came back and I tested the audio again. It wasn't working again. I mean, no joke. And I was like, what is going on? And after 20 times testing the same thing, recording for at least a minute, which takes a long time, I finally got it. And I finally went for it. And as I was going through this process and as I was experiencing frustration, and at the same time I was trying to remain calm, centered, and balanced so I can show up like that in these episodes, and I wasn't feeling it, to be honest with you. And I was thinking, man, resilience is such an important part, mainly when you're trying to implement something new in your life. And if you're listening at this podcast, I truly believe you're in this journey of wanting to grow and wanting to be better and wanting to level up step by step. And when you're doing that, my friend, you're stretching the boundaries of what you know. You're stretching your boundaries of who you are so you can be even better and you can show up in meaningful ways. And whenever you do that, you're setting goals that are ambitious. You're setting goals that you have never done before. Or maybe you have set those goals in the past, but you have never followed through before. Something that I try to remind myself of is the journey is messy. It's not a straight line. There are many curves, and that's totally okay because what really counts is being resilient. What really counts is not giving up, is being able to fall like a baby and get back up. So even connecting to that inner child of you and that playfulness whenever you fail and you were curious to stand up again and see what happened. That's how we learned how to walk. Why do we behave differently now? I feel so many times we are striving for perfection, this perfection that doesn't exist. And by the way, perfection is another way of procrastination. I have a podcast episode about that. And we strive for so much perfection, creating this ideal desired outcome that doesn't exist anywhere. And we forget about the process of. We forget about this beautiful journey that we are going through of growing really and just getting back on track. I truly believe one of the most powerful moments of getting back on track and being resilient is having a clear long-term direction. If you have listened to other episodes, I say this over and over because it is so important, my friend. You having a strong why and a strong purpose translated into a clear vision of yourself, the person who you want to be in the future, the ideal version of you, the things that you want to do in the future, and have that be your driver to enable you to get back up. Because you believe in that purpose, you believe in that long-term direction so much. You believe in all the service and how much you're gonna be giving back to the world whenever you get there. You believe in that so much that it pulls you out of not wanting to be resilient, that it pulls you out of stumbling and it gets you back on track. So I think the first thing is to really have a clear vision of what you want in life. And I have this vision, I call it with my coaching clients and the students of my Discover Your Purpose program digital course, I call it the avatar and aim. And based on that, based on the longer term direction of yourself, you set goals, right? The things that you want to achieve within the next year. And these are goals, like I mentioned, that push your boundaries. And whenever you do something different, whenever you do something new, I mean, myself, that I transitioned a year ago from my 9 years corporate career to entrepreneurship, there have been countless ways that I've felt like giving up. There have been countless ways where I have fallen and I have gotten to get back up because my purpose and the vision of myself is so strong that it's magnetic. It's literally pulling me back on track because I believe in what I'm doing. And I think one of the biggest lessons of life is to develop that consistency of being resilient, to develop that consistency of having a clear vision that no matter what happens in your path, you get back on. And I love this book. It's called The Slight Edge. All my coaching clients read it, and I've read it like 3 times already. It's called The Slight Edge, and the author provides a meaningful term for this. His term is course correcting. Whenever you get out of course, you course correct. And I love 2 of the examples that he provides. He provides example of you driving a car and you're in the steering wheel while you're driving this car, and the car is not going to go on a straight line unless you course correct because you are the driver. And that's exactly how we need to behave in our lives. We are the driver of our destiny. And let me tell you, so many times our unconscious programming, because we are used to doing things the same way over and over, our unconscious programming will take over. And it is our responsibility to be aware of that, recognize those unhealthy and self-sabotaging patterns, and just let that go and get back on track. And in order to do that, it's important that you also recognize the progress that you have had, that you recognize that whenever you get off track, to be compassionate and kind towards yourself. It's funny because sometimes my coaching clients, part of what we do is also developing a daily practice. Like I help them design this. And part of this practice is meditating, is really creating this space to connect with your own input, which is something that unfortunately we don't do enough of. And because it's something new, sometimes they fall off track and they come to a session and they are like, Janet, I just feel that all the progress I've made went out of the window. So, and I know how they feel because I do this too. Sometimes we are so hard with ourselves when we fall off track, when we are inconsistent, and we think that all the progress we did up until that point, it has disappeared, that is gone. And I'm here to let you know that that is not the case. Whenever you see yourself falling off track, I want you to recognize your progress and see how far you have gone, how far you have grown into the first time you started working on yourself. And see that the challenges that you're working through right now are different than the challenges you used to work through 5 years ago. And that, my friend, is progress. And progress equals happiness. Whenever we feel stuck, whenever we feel flatlined, we feel unfulfilled. We feel like there is no meaning. But whenever we have that clear direction and we start progressing step by step towards there, that's what creates momentum, and that's what makes us continue moving forward, to keep moving forward. And it is so important to remain kind and compassionate towards yourself when that happens. The second part is really to forgive yourself. Just acknowledge, hey, I know I wasn't consistent at this time. What do I need to do next, right? What is my intention as I move forward? And after being compassionate, kind, and forgiving yourself is asking, what can I do based on that long-term direction that I have of myself? What can I do to get on track? The second example of this book that I was talking about, The Slight Edge, that Jeff Olson provides, it's a really interesting one. And I didn't know this. So apparently the Apollo rocket, right, the one NASA designed, whenever it goes to the moon, whenever it arrives to the moon safely, 97% of that journey to the moon, it goes off track. And then the computer programming that NASA has developed, it course corrects the rocket to get on track. So 97% of the time is course correcting. The Apollo rocket goes off track, the computer programming course correct back on track. Like literally 97% of the time it goes that way. And I would say that that's pretty much a reflection of our lives too, because we gotta let go of this concept of perfection. We gotta let go of this concept that we're gonna get it right since the first time. And we have to start embracing that the journey is messy. We have to start embracing that a lot of times we are gonna go off course, and that's totally okay because we are human beings. Even the Apollo rocket, designed by the smartest minds, right? Even that, which is a piece of technology and a machine, it needs to course correct over and over. Why? Because there are many challenges on the way. There are distractions on the way. There are rocks, meteorites. I don't know what happens in the space, my friend. But there are many things. And when you take this analogy and you put it back in your life, life is the same, right? Maybe this day you're planning to do something and then like a personal emergency happens or something else came up. And it is important to allow time for reflection and see where we can course correct. So I wanted to give you that example because I thought it was genius, and there are so many commonalities to life. The other example I like to provide, which I provide this example in my course in the Discover Your Purpose program, it's about Thomas Edison. As you may know, Thomas Edison invented the light bulb, and he tried many times unsuccessfully until he got it right one time. He probably was one of the most resilient people ever because he was obsessed with the idea. He was engaged with the process of what he was doing. And that's why I'm all about purpose and gaining clarity, because in this journey, in order to be resilient and get back on track, you gotta truly love and enjoy what you're doing. You gotta truly love and be passionate about the journey. Because my friend, it's not easy. It's gonna get messy. It has a lot of curves, like I said. And after failing 10,000 times, Thomas Edison didn't give up, and the next time he made it happen. And it's funny because he was having an interview with a reporter, and the reporter asked Thomas Edison, what does it feel to know that you failed 10,000 times at inventing the light bulb? And you know what he said? I have not failed 10,000 times. I've successfully found 10,000 ways that will not work. I love this reframe because he immediately understood that he was learning in the process. He remained curious through the journey, and he understood that there was no failure, there was only feedback. Feedback of, hey, this method didn't work, let's try another one. And I feel sometimes we give up the first time it doesn't work. But what about the second one? And what about the third one? We all have heard the story about Disney, right? And the person who founded Disney and how many times he tried to get a loan and every bank was denying it until he got one bank that said yes, and that yes completely changed his life and the lives of many people. Spanx, like the founder of Spanx, she went to different manufacturers and everyone thought that was the dumbest idea until she got Sarah Blakely, until she got to one male who was the leader of the manufacturing facility, and he had two daughters. And when she showed the product to him and he asked his daughters if that product was going to help them and they said yes, that's when Sarah Blakely's life changed. And with that, so many of our lives change. Honestly, I haven't used Spanx yet, but I've heard it's amazing. I may use it for my for my wedding. Who knows? I'll keep you updated on that one. But you see a pattern, my friend. And as you know, we all live in patterns. You see a pattern of successful people. You see a pattern of people who are creative and who they are constantly growing and changing other people's lives in... It doesn't matter the scale. It can be small scale, medium, large. It doesn't matter. Resilience and knowing how to get back on track is a must to anything you want to do in life. And we were born with the resilience because you can totally see a child in their baby faces and you see how resilient they are. Because that's our natural state, to get back on track, to try again, to remain curious. So I wanted to give you a couple of practical tips, as always, of things that you can think of whenever you face a challenge and you know you have to get back on track and you're struggling. The first piece of advice is to think as everything as there is no failure, only feedback. There is no failure. The only failure there is the one of not trying. So why not to try and to learn as you go? Because the more you try, the more you learn and the more wisdom you gain in this life and the better it gets, I promise. So sometimes it's just about taking action and getting uncomfortable. And it's okay to start small, okay? It's okay to not be perfect the first time. The second one is like I mentioned, even with your car, with the Apollo rocket, course correct. Every time you deviate from your goals, course correct. First of all, be compassionate, kind, forgive yourself, and then course correct. And important, have that longer term direction that it will pull you towards a direction you have been intentional with. Being intentional in this process is very important too. The third piece of advice is to embrace the journey. I am guilty of not often, I've gotten a lot better, but sometimes we get so attached to the outcome. It is essential to embrace the journey, embrace the process of life, because let me tell you, it's never ending. So why not embrace the journey and learn and remain curious in the process? The next practical advice is do your best always. Show up as your best, and showing up, by the way, is 80% of the journey. If you show up, I know you're gonna give your best. So push yourself to show up. And the do your best was inspired by one of my favorite books, The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. And he says in that book, your best is going to be different every day. Be kind to yourself and recognize that. Let me repeat it again because this part is really important. Do your best always and recognize that your best is going to be different every single day. And that's okay. Embrace how you're going to show up today. That's all it matters. Today is the only moment we have for now. So embrace how you're showing up today. However you feel, it's okay. The next tool, the next one is progress and consistency over perfection. Let go of perfection. I have another podcast episode on this one. Check it out. Letting go of perfection is so important because so many times we go into analysis paralysis and we don't do anything. The more you practice resilience and the more action you take, even if it's imperfect, the more your confidence and momentum builds up. Show up. You don't have to be perfect. Wait, you are not perfect. I am not perfect. So why are we trying to portray a persona that doesn't make sense, that is not realistic to us? I want to see you imperfect. That's what I love about you, that we all get to share our flaws, and that's totally okay because we are all growing in this journey. And the next one, which I feel it's one that we don't talk about enough, make it fun. The journey is gonna be there, the challenges are gonna be there. Let's make it fun, remain curious and playful with everything we go through life. My friend, this is the end, just for now, because I know I'll see you next week. I want to appreciate your presence here because you are showing up. You're showing up, and I want to recognize that. You're staying resilient because you're here showing up. Keep going. Incorporate all these things that we have talked about during this episode. Knowledge is potential power. Action is real power. So I want you to think of one thing based on everything we spoke about today. What is one thing? And I'm there with you in your office or in your house or in your car. I don't know where you are right now, but I want you to think of one thing really quickly. What is one thing that you're going to implement moving forward so you can show up more resilient whenever you go off track? I am proud of you. If you found this helpful, please share it with someone else. This is so important to get the message across. As always, super grateful for you, and I hope you have a wonderful day. I'll see you next week.
Thank you so much for listening at With Clarity and Purpose. I really hope you enjoyed today's episode. Sharing is caring. Please share with your friends and family so we can continue building an empowered community together. I'll see you next week.